Very well. Good morning, Council.
Good morning.
We have a few items to take up, and let's take up the scheduling item first. I have just learned that a message from the clerk to Mr. Boutros apparently was not delivered or not received, that we have cleared the calendar and will be able to continue the trial tomorrow. The clerk put a call to Mr. Boutros to that effect and to Mr. Thompson and requested that each notify everybody else. And apparently Mr. Thompson did not do so, and Mr. Boutros apparently did not receive the message. But be that as it may, we are ready to proceed to the trial tomorrow, and we will proceed as expeditiously as possible.
And, Your Honor, I would like to apologize. I'd assumed that it was informed counsel on the side. I had not realized that I was supposed to coordinate, and I picked up the message on Tuesday morning, but I do apologize to the court.
Very well, I accept that. I understand. Now, we have some discovery and other matters to deal with. The first is proponent's objection to the magistrate's discovery order. And we have just filed a written order on that objection a few moments ago. It's very brief. The bottom line is that the magistrate's order, I do not believe, is clearly erroneous, which is the standard. In fact, I think it's quite correct. And so the discovery order by Magistrate Judge Sparrow will remain undisturbed. The second is proponent's motion to amend the January 8th discovery order to add 4 names to the core group designation. I tried to communicate with Magistrate Judge Sparrow this morning to see if he was available to hear that. I was unable to reach him. And inasmuch as this was a matter before him, it might make more sense for him to hear this in the first instance. But I don't want that reference to delay matters. So if he's unavailable to hear the matter or to give a decision before, say, midday tomorrow, I'd prefer to rule on that based upon the submissions here. So I'll have the clerk try to reach him and see what his availability is, and then at least one lawyer from each side go and discuss the matter with him and take up the issue. As I understand it, the proponents wish to add 4 names to the core group designation. Mr. Criswell, Mr. Worthland, John Doe. I've forgotten the 4th you're seeking.
Mr. Rob Worthland?
Mr. Worthland, yes.
Peterson. I'm sorry, Andrew Cuneo for the defendant intervenors. Mr. Rob Worthland is the 4th? Peterson.
I mentioned Worthland.
Oh, I'm sorry, Your Honor. It's Richard Peterson.
Okay. Now we have the plaintiff's motion to reopen the deposition of Mr. Prentice. We haven't had a response on that, or at least I haven't seen one, but I wonder, Mr. Boutros, whether we really need to have a further deposition of Mr. Prentice? As I understand the situation, you believe that you've discovered documents which call into question the deposition testimony that Mr. Prentice gave earlier. Why can you not simply take that up in your examination of him? When is he going to be called as a witness?
We have him we have listed him, Your Honor, for I think tomorrow or Friday, and we thought it would, number one, streamline things if we were able to just walk through these documents with him. It is a fairly voluminous group of documents, which might either make it unnecessary for us to call him live, if we were talking about authenticating documents, or at least would spare the court some lengthy walking through documents and asking him what they are and that sort of thing. And so I don't think it needs to be really a long deposition, but we thought for everyone it would be better to just do a deposition, walk through the documents, and then streamline things in the court. And we thought that would be a preferable way to approach it.
Do proponents have a view, Ms. Moss?
Good morning, Your Honor, and I apologize for not having a copy with me, but we did just file our opposition this morning, and I'm trying to get one now. Our position is we are opposed to reopening the deposition of Mr. Prentice. He was deposed for 14 hours, both as the 30B6 and in his individual capacity. And we believe that their papers suggested they had 25 documents that they wanted to go over with him. And we believe that to the extent that there is inconsistencies with his testimony, they can explore that on the stand, and that it would be highly prejudicial to us to have both sit through his deposition at the same time that it's the day before they're saying they are going to put him on the stand. We wouldn't have the ability to really prepare him for his testimony. So we would ask that it not be reopened, or at a minimum that it be not the 7 hours they have requested, but at most an hour.
Well, we would take 2 hours, Your Honor. And if I could just respond to the suggestion that it's the proponents who are sort of getting the short end of the stick on the fairness equation. The proponents withheld these documents, refused to let Mr. Prentice answer questions on things that were clearly within discovery. And Magistrate Spiro, when he heard the arguments and ruled, found that the relevance arguments were entirely frivolous. And I think he said outrageous at one point, because they were clearly documents and things that were within the realm of discovery and this court's order and the Ninth Circuit's court's order. So we have been proceeding with extreme diligence. We have teams reviewing these documents for the last week. These documents should have been produced well before Mr. Prentice's deposition. So we think that we're making a modest request for a short deposition, which will benefit everyone, including helping streamline the proceedings.
I am inclined to agree with Mr. Moss. I have not forgotten what it's like to try cases or to take depositions at the same time. That's difficult under any circumstances. Seems to me that you will be able to cross-examine Mr. Prentice, and if there are, in fact, inconsistencies between his deposition testimony and the evidence that's now been produced, you will be able to explore that. And it can be done just as effectively here at trial as with further depositions. May take a little more time with the authentication of documents, but we're in trial. So I'll let you proceed. And then I believe that the only other matter is the proponent's objection to the next witness.
Actually, Your Honor, before you get to that, there's something in the nature of loose ends.
All right.
I think
Let's tidy up those loose ends.
this won't take a moment. But yesterday, I did maintain a provisional objection introduced into evidence. It was PXO 188 and PXO 189. Since the time of that provisional objection, my friends for the plaintiffs have provided the confirmation that these were indeed provided to us before the deposition of Dr. Badgett.
Very well.
So we withdraw that objection.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Cooper. Then I believe the only other remaining matter is the issue of Ryan Kendall testimony.
Yes, Your Honor.
And you are,
James Campbell for the defendant interveners.
Mr. Campbell, you took the deposition?
That is correct, Your Honor. Just as I understand Your Honor is familiar with the deposition.
I read the deposition.
As a brief background, Mr. Kendall is a man from Colorado whose parents forced him against his will to attend some type of sexual orientation conversion therapy. And that is the nature of his testimony in the case. We believe that there are 4 reasons why his testimony should be excluded from this case. First of all, Mr. Kendall's testimony is irrelevant. He is irrelevant. He can only testify about his limited experience, which deals with involuntary forced conversion therapy. And it is our position, Your Honor, that that is wholly irrelevant to this court's analysis. Secondly, to the extent that this issue is at all relevant, it is the proper subject of expert testimony, not lay testimony. Simply put, one man's anecdotal account of his experiences with a particular type of conversion therapy is irrelevant to this court's analysis. It's no more relevant than if the defendant interveners found some individual and asked him to elicit testimony about a positive experience they had with this type of testimony. So we would just urge the court that this is the proper subject of expert testimony, if it is at all relevant. And further to that point, Your Honor, the plaintiff and plaintiff interveners have already identified an expert, Dr. Heyck, who in his expert report, has already opined on the issue of conversion therapy. So if it's relevant, he can discuss it. And finally, Your Honor, I think this perhaps is one of the more important points. Plaintiff and plaintiff intervener's own expert, Dr. Herrera, has indicated that self-reports of conversion therapy from many years ago, which of course is the type of testimony that we'll be receiving from Mr. Kendall, is unreliable, often inaccurate, and unhelpful for serious analysis. And what I'm referring to specifically, Your Honor, is Plaintiff's Exhibit 2563, which I have some copies of. This document, Your Honor, is Dr. Herrick's commentary on a study of conversion therapy conducted by a person named Spitzer. And if I could direct the courts specifically, Dr. Herrick makes some comments here about self-reporting of conversion therapy, and I think they are particularly enlightening in this context. What he says on page 438 of this document, and it's the last paragraph on the page, just the first couple of sentences, I quote, "Even if Spitzer respondents sincerely try to give true accounts of feelings and daily behavior from, on average, 12 years prior to the interview, their reports cannot be assumed to be reliable. People often are inaccurate when recalling earlier mental states, especially when their emotions, goals, or beliefs have changed in the interim." And he goes on further, so I guess our position on that point is their own expert recognizes that this type of self-reporting isn't helpful for a serious analysis.
Let me ask you, Mr. Campbell, isn't this an issue that the proponents themselves have raised and opened in the case?
Well, I don't believe that we've raised the issue of forced conversion therapy, Your Honor.
Well, I'm looking at your trial brief, and you say, "The evidence at trial will show that many people freely choose their sexual orientation," goes on. "The evidence will further demonstrate that, however it is defined sexual orientation, that can shift over time and does so for a significant number of people. And the proposed findings that the proponents have submitted include such items as no aspect of sexual orientation has been shown to be immutable. An individual's sexual orientation can change over the course of a lifetime. Research shows that many individuals' sexual orientation does change over the course of a lifetime. Women's sexual orientation tends to be particularly fluid, malleable, shaped by life experience, and capable of change over time. And for many people, adopting a particular sexual orientation is a conscious choice." So these are findings that you yourself have put in,
That's correct.
or at least your colleagues. So it seems to me you have raised the very issue to which this witness is going to testify.
Well, I think the critical distinction, Your Honor, is we don't ever mention any type of forced or structured therapy that would bring out these changes. Our position in this case and our position in those factual findings are that these changes do occur. Whether or not they occur through some type of structured therapy is not an issue that's relevant. The bottom line is that changes occur. And that is what is relevant to determining whether a suspect classification applies here.
What evidence are you going to put in on this?
Well, extensive.
Are you going to present evidence that people have successfully changed their sexual orientation?
Well, we believe through various cross-examinations of some of the upcoming witnesses, as well as potentially through some of our own, we will show that, Your Honor.
Other than
exactly what you-
cross-examination, how do you intend to show this?
Well, as I said, we may call our own witnesses to show this and our own experts to show this, but it is something that we primarily intend to show through cross-examination of the plaintiff's experts,
I see.
as well as whatever is on this note.
Always handy to receive a note from one of your colleagues.
As well as thorough studies, Your Honor.
Through studies.
Yes.
Okay.
Which we will introduce through on cross and other various means. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. By the way, I think you took a good deposition.
Thank you.
Well, it does seem to me that this is an issue that the proponents themselves have raised in the case, and the fluidity of sexual orientation. And it is true that this is an issue that depends greatly on expert testimony. But as with the many aspects of testimony in a trial and evidence in a trial, actual first-hand experience to illustrate points that you have raised is very helpful. And you're not the only one, Mr. Campbell, to receive notes. It's very helpful. And I think that the testimony of Mr. Campbell on this issue can be evaluated by the court and weighed in relation to the expert testimony and all the other evidence that's going to be presented. So I am disinclined to exclude his testimony. He has, after all, been deposed. Mr. Campbell's had a chance to explore this gentleman's testimony, to prepare himself. And so I think it's not unfair to the proponents, having raised this issue, for Mr. Kendall to testify. And therefore, the motion to exclude him will be denied. Now, the note that I've just been handed is that Magistrate Judge Spiro can hear the core group issue right now. So if you would designate, please, one of your number to hightail it to Magistrate Judge Spiro, he can hear the matter and render a decision.
Very well, Your Honor. Mr. Puno is taking the lead for our side on these subject matters.
Good, thank you.
And I am sending Mr. McGill in for that one.
All right. Well, Mr. Boutros, you're calling the next witness, are you?
Your Honor, I'm going to have Mr. Boies explain. We're going to, first, we'll play some video clips of depositions as a prelude to today's testimony from our witnesses. Mr. Boies.
All right, Mr. Boies.
Your Honor, we're going to play deposition designations from Dr. Paul Nathanson initially, and then we are going to begin with deposition designations from Dr. Paul Nathanson, and then follow that with deposition designations from Professor Kathleen Young. Both of these individuals were designated experts from the defendants, but the defendants have withdrawn them, so they're not going to be calling them live.
Let's see. Catherine Young does appear, yes, to have been designated by the defendants. And the other one is Mr. Nathanson?
Yes, Paul Nathanson, Dr. Paul Nathanson.
All right.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Your Honor, before we get underway on that, I do want to recall to the court's attention the discussion about this that happened a few trial days ago with Mr. Thompson. These witnesses were withdrawn at their insistence, and I understand that Mr. Boies is going to submit these to the court under judicial notice and offer judicial notice. And we are fine with that, or we will not object to that. Although we do believe that under those circumstances, it would be necessary for us to be allowed to also submit to the court the expert witness reports that provide the basis for these deposition questions and these designations. And also to offer to the court counter designations as soon as we are able to determine what they're putting on and can identify counter designations from the deposition, if the court please.
Your Honor, we gave them these designations a week ago. In fact, we told them we might play them last Thursday or Friday, depending on the timing. So they have had the deposition designations. They are clearly admissible under 32. It's subsection 4, I think. I think it is, where a witness is more than 300 miles away and we did not procure the witness's absence. And I think they would be also admissible under judicial notice. But I think they are admissible as evidence under 32, A and B.
Well, let's see, where are these folks located?
Montreal County.
Both of them?
Both of them.
Well, that's more than 100 miles from San Francisco.
I took their deposition, so I know exactly where they are and how cold it is there.
All right. Well, there are probably multiple grounds on which the testimony is admissible. Clearly, if there are counter designations and that the court, that the proponents wish to have the court consider, they may do so. Although, if it's correct, Mr. Cooper, that you received these designations a week ago, I would think that you'd be able to get in your counter designations by now. I'm not going to foreclose you from making counter designations once you hear the testimony, though. So, all right?
Oh, thank you, Your Honor.
Paul Nathanson, called as a witness for the plaintiff's hearing, testified via videotape deposition played in open court, time noted 9:01 a.m.
Your Honor, that completes Dr. Nathanson's deposition excerpt. I would offer this, at this time, Plaintiff's Exhibit 2334, which is Dr. Nathanson's resume.
2354.
2334.
34. I beg your pardon. 2334.
No objection, Your Honor, to the resume coming in.
Very well.
And, Your Honor, I would offer Plaintiff's Exhibit 2546 and 2547. 2546 is the disc, and 2547 is the transcript of the portions of Dr. Nathanson's testimony that have just been played.
Very well. 2546 is the CD of the testimony we just heard, correct?
May I approach, Your Honor, and provide a copy for the court?
2546 is the CD or the disc of the testimony we just heard?
That's correct, Your Honor.
All right.
Your Honor, I just want to reassert my previously stated objection and also note that we will offer the court our counter designations with appreciation to the court's permission tomorrow, if that is okay.
That will be fine.
Thank you.
Very well. Are we ready with another
Yeah, we are, Your Honor.
witness?
This is Professor Catherine Young's deposition, and I would offer Plaintiff's Exhibit 2335, which is her resume. And I'd offer it at this time so the court has it while she's testifying.
Very well.
And there's no objection to the resume of Dr. Young.
Very well.
And the disc of the resume is Plaintiff's Exhibit 2335 as well. We also have a disc of the testimony, which is Plaintiff's Exhibit 2544.
2544.
2544, which is the disc of the testimony.
Very well.
And Exhibit 2545 is the transcript of the testimony.
All right.
Your Honor, again, subject to my previously stated points.
That will be fine, Mr. Cooper.
Catherine Young, called as a witness for the plaintiff's hearing, testified via videotape deposition played in open court, time noted 9:20 a.m.
That completes the deposition of Professor Young. Our next witness, Your Honor, is Mr. Ryan Kendall.
Very well. I don't believe I was handed the disc of Professor Young's testimony, but has a clerk got it?
Yeah, I do, Your Honor.
All right, then, 2544, all right. Why don't we take a brief break at this time while you bring Mr. Kendall forward, and then we'll resume in 10 minutes.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Very well. Very well.
Good morning. Ron Flynn, City and County of City of San Francisco.
Mr. Flynn.
Yes, Your Honor.
Very well.
I'm here to call the next witness, Mr. Kendall.
Raise your right hand, please. God?
I do. So help me God.
Thank you. State your name, please.
Ryan Matthew Kendall,
And spell your last name
Kendall.
and your first name.
Ryan, Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Kendall.
Good morning, Mr. Kendall. Where do you live?
I currently live in Denver, Colorado.
And who do you work for?
I work for the Denver Police Department.
And what do you do for the Denver Police Department?
I'm an NCIC agent.
Can you briefly tell us what an NCIC agent is?
NCIC stands for the National Crime Information Center. It's a database maintained by the FBI, and I have a clearance to work with secure criminal information that's on the database.
Mr. Kendall, I want to talk to you about when you were younger, when you were a child. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Colorado Springs, Colorado.
And when were you born?
1983.
So you're 26 now.
That is correct.
Where did you attend elementary school?
I went to a school called ECA, Evangelical Christian Academy.
While you were a child in Colorado Springs, did you learn of the concept of gay people or homosexuality?
Yes. I remember during the discussion about Amendment 2, during the Amendment 2 campaign, my parents would talk about homosexuals seeking special rights and how they were essentially evil people and how they felt threatened and how our family was threatened by homosexuals.
At that time, did you know what a homosexual was?
No, I didn't. I just knew it was a big, long, scary word, and I found the whole concept pretty frightening.
Mr. Kendall, what is your sexual orientation?
I'm a gay man.
When did you first realize that you were gay?
When I was a little kid. I knew I liked other boys, but I didn't realize that that meant I was gay until I was probably 11 or 12 years old.
How did you come to realize that it meant that meant you were gay?
Well, I was a precocious kid. So one day I ended up looking up the word homosexual in the dictionary, and I remember reading the definition, something along the lines of a romantic attraction between members of the same sex, and it slowly dawned on me that that's what I was.
Given your prior testimony about homosexuals, how did you feel when you realized that you were gay?
Well, once I connected all this together, I realized what a homosexual was. The fact that I was a homosexual and the fact that my family and community did not like this concept, I was scared by that. I realized this was bad news for me, so I kept this a secret, and I hid it as far away from everyone as I could.
Around this time, did anyone talk to you about being gay?
When I was in 7th grade, I remember being taunted about being gay. Some of the older boys, they would call me names and things like that.
What kind of names would they call you?
I was called a faggot. I was called a homo, a queer, even just gay.
Other than name calling, did these boys do anything else to you?
I remember one incident. I've worn glasses since I was in 3rd grade, and I needed them to see. A couple of the boys took my glasses and played monkey in the middle with them, keeping them away from me, and they threw them over my head until eventually they broke them.
Was it like, what was it like for you to be in that school? How did you feel?
It was scary going into the building, realizing that these kids were taunting me with a word that was so close to the truth. And it was very upsetting for me. I would go home and get in the car when my parents would pick me up, crying and telling them what had been going on.
What did your parents do?
My parents were horrified that I was being treated so poorly. So eventually, they took me out of that school and they placed me in another one.
At the time they did that, did your parents know you were gay?
No, they did not.
Did your parents ever find out you were gay?
Yes. When I was 13 years old, at one point my parents discovered my journal. For the first time in that journal, I admitted to myself that I was gay. And I had actually written those exact words in my journal, and they found that and they read it.
What happened when they found your journal?
My parents flipped out. They were really upset, and they were yelling, and I don't remember a lot of what they said, but it was pretty scary, the level of their reaction.
Can you remember anything they said to you when they found the journal?
Yes. I remember my mom looking at me and telling me that I was going to burn in hell.
Were you in a religious family?
Yes. I grew up in a very religious family. Church and God were everyday parts of our lives.
So what did you think when your mother told you that?
It was shocking. I'd never heard anything like that from my mother. I never thought that my parents would say anything like that ever to me. I mean, hell in our household was the worst word. You don't get much worse than eternal damnation. And I was just totally stunned that she had said that to me.
Did your parents later tell you anything else about being gay?
Well, after my parents found out, my home life changed a lot. My parents didn't take it very well, and I remember my mother calling me names.
Did they make any efforts to put you in any therapy or change you in any way?
Yes. Shortly after the incident, I was sent to a Christian therapist for reversal therapy.
Why do you say it was a Christian therapist?
That's how he was identified to me.
Can you tell us the goal of Christian therapy?
I was told that the goal was to make me a heterosexual.
How many times did you go to this therapy?
I went 2 or 3 times.
Do you remember anything you did at that therapy?
I remember a little bit. I remember that the therapist was telling me that homosexuality was inconsistent with the Christian teaching, and that my parents didn't want me to be gay, and that I needed to change, and that homosexuals were bad people.
Did Christian therapy make you feel any better about the situation?
No, it didn't. I always wanted to be a good kid and to make my parents proud, and suddenly I was put in this situation where they were taking me to see this guy who was telling me that I was a bad person, and they were telling me that I was a bad person. I just remember feeling very alone.
Was the therapy successful? By that I mean, did it reach its goal of making you into a heterosexual?
No, I was still gay.
Did you try to become a heterosexual during those therapy sessions?
No, I didn't think that was possible.
Why not?
I knew I was gay, just like I knew that I'm short and I'm half Hispanic, and I never thought that those facts would change.
When you stopped going to this therapy program, did you go to another therapy program?
Yeah, my parents had been referred by Focus on the Family to another organization called NARTH.
What is Focus on the Family?
Focus on the Family is a Christian family ministry based in Colorado Springs, Colorado, where I grew up.
And what is NARTH?
NARTH stands for the National Association for Reparative Therapy of Homosexuality. It's a reversal therapy organization based in Encino, California.
Did you go voluntarily to NARTH?
No, my parents made all the decisions for me.
How long were you at NARTH?
About 1.5 years.
From what ages?
14 to 16.
During the last time that you were at NARTH, how was your home life?
my home life had changed a lot. It was like night and day. I remember before all this started, I had the kind of parents who would drive me to school and make my lunches and write notes and put them in my lunch. And after this, they were always yelling at me. They were calling me names. They were just telling me really horrible, horrible things. And it became a really emotional and verbal abusive environment.
What kind of names were they calling you?
My mother would tell me that she hated me, or that I was disgusting, or that I was repulsive. Once she told me that she wished that she had an abortion. That she had an abortion instead of a gay son. She told me that she wished I had been born with Down syndrome, or that I had been mentally retarded. Things like that.
Who did you meet with at Narth?
I met with Dr. Joseph Nicolosi.
And who was Dr. Joseph Nicolosi?
Nicolosi was the executive director of Narth.
Was he also a therapist?
Yes.
Where would you meet with Mr. Nicolosi?
Most of the time I would meet with him in my parents' room, and my dad had a separate line at his desk, and I would call in and do the over-the-phone sessions for like an hour or an hour and a half, but I did actually fly out to California to do some in-person sessions as well.
What would you talk about during those sessions?
I don't really recall what we would talk about in those sessions. I recall, I don't recall a lot of what was said during those sessions. I recall Nicolosi saying that, homosexuality is incompatible with what God wants for you, and your parents want you to change, and that this is a bad thing.
Were you given any advice on how you would be able to suppress your homosexuality in these therapy sessions?
I remember it as a general admonishment, but not a specific technique, no.
You remained a religious person through your experiences at Narth, correct?
Yes, I did.
Is it possible that your experience at Narth helped you reconcile your faith with your identity as a gay person?
At Narth, I was being told that I had to reject who I was on the most fundamental level, because what that was dirty and bad. While I reconciled my faith with my identity, the therapy I went to at Narth, it played no role in that.
How old were you when you stopped going to reversal therapy?
I was 16 years old.
And was it successful in that you were able to suppress your homosexuality?
No, I was just as gay as when I started.
Why did you stop going to reversal therapy?
During this whole thing, my life had kind of fallen apart. I didn't have the world that I grew up in, my faith, which was very, very important to me, and my family, which was even more important. Everything had just kind of stopped. And I just couldn't take it anymore. I realized at one point that if I didn't stop going, I wasn't going to survive.
What do you mean by that?
I probably would have killed myself.
How is it that you were able to stop going to reversal therapy?
When I was 16, I separated myself from my family and surrendered myself to the Department of Human Services in Colorado Springs.
And what happened when you surrendered yourself to that department?
I went in and I spoke with the caseworker. I told her what had been going on in my family and what had been going on with the reversal therapy. I told her that if I went back to that house that I was going to end up killing myself. So they started a dependency and neglect proceeding to revoke my parents' custody.
So did you stop living with your parents and stop going to therapy?
That's correct.
And did things get better?
I was a 16-year-old kid who had just lost everything. I didn't really know what to do. I was lost. And so the next few years I wandered in and out of jobs. I wandered in and out of schools. I was incredibly suicidal and very depressed. I hated my entire life, and at one point I even turned to drugs as an escape from reality because I was trying to kill myself. So, no, things did not get any better for me.
How long did this period last?
4 or 5 years.
During this period, were you able to support yourself?
I mean, it was a struggle for survival. I wasn't really able to support myself, though, no.
Did you rely on any public benefits or anything like that during this period?
Well, my health care ran out, and I had to go to the emergency rooms to get medical care. And the only counseling I could get were through state schools because I couldn't afford anything else.
Mr. Kendall, you told us that you now work for the Denver Police Department, correct?
That's correct.
How long have you done that?
Over 2 years now.
So it would be fair to say that you're able to support yourself and you're stable?
Yes. It's been a long, hard journey, but I have fought with every bit of myself to take care of myself, to get a good job, to get some place to live, and I've been able to do that.
I just have a couple of questions for you, just a couple of more questions. Mr. Kendall, are you a member of any organization that advocates for greater rights for gays and lesbians?
Yes, I am.
Can you tell me which ones?
I'm a member of the I'm a member of the Log Cabin Republicans, and I'm also the current chair of the Denver Gay Lesbian, Bisexual, and Transgender Commission.
And what is that commission?
It's an advisory body that advises city agencies in the mayor's office on GLBT-related issues within the city and county of Denver.
Are you here to testify today as a member of the Log Cabin or as a member of that commission?
No, I'm not. I came here to testify as myself, Ryan Kendall.
Do you consider yourself personally an advocate for gay and lesbian rights?
In my personal life, I am, yes.
Mr. Kendall, was anything you said today in court shaped by your role as an advocate for gay and lesbian rights?
Absolutely not. I've just told you my story, what happened to me.
Thank you. I have no further questions for you.
Mr. Campbell, you may cross-examine.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Good morning, Mr. Kendall. I just have a few questions for you. Have you ever lived in the state of California?
No, I have not.
And you didn't have any role in the campaign to oppose Proposition 8, did you?
No, I did not.
You didn't see any of the Yes on 8 campaign materials, did you?
No, I did not.
You were contacted by someone from the San Francisco City Attorney's Office who asked you to participate as a witness in this case. Is that true?
Yes.
When were you contacted by this person from the San Francisco City Attorney's Office?
I don't recall exactly. I think it was sometime in late October.
You have never read a scientific study addressing the concept of sexual orientation. Isn't that true?
That is true.
And isn't it also true that you have never studied whether a person's sexual orientation can change throughout the course of his or her lifetime?
No, I haven't studied it.
Isn't it also true that you know people who have professed to be of one sexual orientation and then at a later time profess to be another?
In public, yes.
And isn't it also true that you're not familiar with the American Psychological Association position on conversion therapy?
That's also true.
You talked at length about your experience with conversion therapy. I just want to touch on some of those points. You were compelled to go to conversion therapy by your parents. Isn't that true?
Yes.
And nothing involved in conversion therapy was your decision. It was your parents' decision. Isn't that true?
Yes.
And when you began conversion therapy, you were not asked to consent to that particular type of counseling. Isn't that true?
That is correct.
At some point during your counseling, you communicated to your parents objections to the counseling treatment you received at conversion therapy. Isn't that true?
I communicated objections to what I was being told both in my family and conversion therapy, yes.
But those objections, they didn't make any difference because you didn't have a choice in the matter, and your parents compelled you to go against your will.
That's correct.
Your only goal for conversion therapy was to survive the experience. Isn't that true?
Absolutely true, yes.
You didn't have the goal of changing your sexual orientation. Sorry, strike that. Correction. You didn't have the goal of changing your sexual attraction, correct?
That's correct.
Indeed, you admit that you did not truly want to reduce your sexual attractions to persons of the same sex. Isn't that true?
That's correct.
You testified a little bit about the alleged emotional harm that you've experienced from conversion therapy. Isn't that true?
Yes.
And you also discussed a little bit about some of the various things that your parents, specifically your mother, said to you. Isn't that true?
Yes.
But you have acknowledged, haven't you, that your particular family experience that went along with conversion therapy was just as damaging to you as the therapy itself.
Yes.
Isn't that correct?
Yes. Yes, I have.
At some point, let me do it this way. At some point, your parents' custody of you was revoked. Isn't that true?
Yes.
And that happened at the age of 16, is that right?
Yes.
And after that point, sometime after you turned 18, you went back to live with your parents for a short period of time. Is that true?
Yes.
You've established through your testimony today you were involuntarily forced to attend conversion therapy. Is that right?
That's correct, sir.
But you would acknowledge that some people do want and voluntarily choose to undergo some form of conversion therapy.
No, sir. No. That's not my personal experiences.
So you would say that you do not acknowledge that? That there is anyone who voluntarily chooses to attend conversion therapy?
Well, I don't know everyone, but that's not my experiences, sir.
So my question to you is it your position that no one has ever gone to conversion therapy voluntarily?
I can't make that assumption, no. But it is my experience that people don't want to go to programs like NARTH.
Well, you acknowledged in your deposition, did you not, that some people report to have effective results with conversion therapy? I mean, isn't that true?
Yes.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Any redirect, Mr. Flynn?
Very, very brief.
Very brief, Your Honor.
While you were in conversion therapy, were you introduced to any people who purported or were purported to you to have successfully undergone conversion therapy?
Yes, I was.
Who was that?
I remember during one of the group therapy sessions, Nicolosi trotted out his perfect patient, the guy who had been cured of his homosexuality. And his His name was Kelly.
Did meeting Kelly have any impact on your views of conversion therapy?
I remember once when Nicolosi stepped out of the room, we were talking amongst ourselves, and Kelly told me that later that night he was going to go to a gay bar, and that he was essentially just pretending to be cured for the sake of his family.
How did that make you feel about the therapy program?
I knew I was gay. I knew that that could not be changed. And this just confirmed that this wasn't going to be effective for me.
One final thing. You said you returned to live with your parents, is that right?
For a brief period, yes.
How long?
A few months.
How is your relationship with your mother now?
I don't speak to my mother.
I have no further questions.
Very well. Thank you, Mr. Kendall. You may step down.